What's going on, everyone? This is Vantapollo and I am back with another video. Now, if you know me personally, you know that I love movies. And every year I go and see movies in the movie theaters and I compile a top 10 list of the top 10 movies of that particular year. And being that the 90th annual Oscars will be live tomorrow, I saw it as the perfect time to reveal my 2017 list of the top 10 movies of that year. Now, I don't really have to go into explanation about what a top 10 list is. I mean, I'm basically going to go from 10 to 1 on my favorite movies of 2017, basically. And just to let you know beforehand, this is my personal list and my personal opinion. Yours could very well differ from my opinion, so I would love to know what are your top 10 movies in the comment section down below. But without further ado, let's kick this top 10 list off with number 10. And my number 10 movie of 2017 is Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk. What I loved about this movie is that Christopher Nolan really does know how to make such a beautiful movie, and such just like, he knows how to make a movie-going experience. And I saw this in IMAX, which it made it 10 times more beautiful in my opinion. And I really did love the visuals he brought to it. I love what Christopher Nolan did with the whole World War II aspect of it. Not World War II, I forgot when this was set, but everything about the visuals and about the sounds and about all that part I loved. The only thing I didn't like was that it didn't seem like it had any dialogue. Like, I mean, I know it had dialogue, and I know they were speaking lines by Mark Rylance, and I think Tom Hardy spoke. Did Tom Hardy speak? I don't remember. And Harry Styles was great, but it just seemed like for a lot of the movie, it was just staring and looking out into space, to another person, to whatever. But that was like one of my main problems, that it just was just like a visual type of movie. It didn't really have any type of story behind it. I mean, other than the fact that this was the story of the Dunkirk, which oddly enough, the darkest hour was the talking between it, and during it, it didn't have a lot of dialogue to me. On to my number 9 movie of 2017 is Blade Runner 2049. What I loved about this movie is that it was a beautiful movie, and I really appreciate beautiful movies. I like, from the cinema palettes to the cinematography to everything that makes this movie look good, I appreciate so much. And another thing I loved about this movie was that it had great performances by Ryan Gosling and honestly Harrison Ford. And this was a movie that I was surprised that Harrison Ford didn't die in, because spoiler alert, he dies in Star Wars: The Force Awakens. So I thought with the state of mind that I was thinking was they're gonna kill him in Blade Runner 2049, because if people don't really know, Harrison Ford doesn't like to be a part of that kind of sequel trilogy type of thing. One thing that puts it at number 9 for me was that this was a god-long movie. Like, I aged about 2 years after the end of that movie, and I'm not saying that is the worst thing, but oh my god, I thought it was just so long, and I saw it in IMAX too. I saw a lot of these movies in IMAX now thinking about it, but it was oh my god, it was a long movie to me, honestly. My number 8 movie of 2017 was Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Now, despite people's opinions for not liking this movie for this reason, I personally love the movie for the fact that Rian Johnson basically ignored everything in The Force Awakens. Like, the fact that who is Snoke was a big question, the fact that who is Rey's parentage was a big question in The Force Awakens. Those were two big questions in The Force Awakens, and in The Last Jedi, Rian Johnson was just basically like, Rey's parents are nobodies and Snoke is a nobody. Like, like, at first it didn't make sense, but that just shows you how unimportant that kind of thing is. It's more about the future at hand. Like, what I thought about it was that Rian Johnson was basically saying, it's just like, let's not focus on the past. Let's not focus on who these people were in a past life. Let's not focus on who Rey's parents are. So let's not focus on who the hell Snoke is. Let's just know that Snoke is evil, is a super bad guy, and that Rey is a Force sensitive person. And I know there was a lot of controversy between Rey and not between Rey, but between Rey having no parents and her parents not being force sensitive, but two things about that. The one first thing I want to say is that we actually don't know, because when Kylo Ren said that Rey's parents were nobodies, maybe, just maybe, but I kind of highly doubted that Rey's parentage he was just saying that so he could like put off Rey for a little bit. He could like just not trick Rey in a sense, but like what is it? Just like throw off Rey for a minute, because we all thought her being force sensitive meant something, and that we all thought that Rey being force sensitive means that she is maybe a Skywalker, or maybe a granddaughter of Obi-Wan Kenobi or somebody like that. But let's remember that Anakin Skywalker, we don't know who his parents was, and he became Darth Vader and father of Luke Skywalker and Leia Organa. So it kind of I don't care about Rey's parentage so much if that is the case. The one thing I didn't like about this movie is that they didn't take the chance to kill Leia Organa. And I know that sounds dark, but I mean, think about it like this. Just imagine if Laura Dern's character, I can't remember her name, and Carrie Fisher's Leia Organa switched the roles. And I don't mean physically switch the roles, but I mean switch the roles as in it would have been Laura Dern's character that got on the cruise ships, and it would have been Leia Organa that were to stay on the carrier ship. Because spoilers again, in the last Jedi, what Laura Dern's character does is that she sees the First Order shooting at these little small carrier ships that don't really have shields or anything, and they're just like shooting at them and destroying tons and tons of rebels. And what Laura Dern does is such a badass moment, and one of my favorite moments in movies in 2017. She just hyperspace into that main carrier ship that was holding Rey, Finn, and a lot of other people on that ship too, destroying the ship, killing thousands of people. It was such a memorable moment. Like, I will always go back to that moment in cinematic history, and I was glad it happened. Because it was so cinematic. But just imagine how much more badass it would have been if Leia Organa did it. And that would have solved two problems right there. That would have solved like having Leia Organa be so important, and it would have solved the big problem of Leia Organa not being in the next Star Wars movies. Because unfortunately Carrie Fisher did pass away, but we didn't get like a real end for Leia Organa, because Leia Organa survived The Last Jedi, so she's gonna be in the episode 9, and it's just gonna be real confusing to have a dead character, which is kind of depressing. A dead character, like, they're gonna have to figure out something. I'm gonna give it to JJ to see what he does with it, but I'm not 100% sure what he will do with it. Now, my number 7 movie of 2017 is Baby Driver. Now, I love this movie, and this is why Edgar Wright is one of my favorite directors, because there are just small little things that you don't notice the first time seeing it around, but the second time you like notice it. And the first time I didn't notice that he was using a lot of the music that was in the soundtrack of Baby Driver as like points where there was this one sequence where they were shooting guns, where John Hamm's character was shooting guns at Ansel Elgort's character, and it was going to the beat of the song. I forgot what the song they used, but that was a fantastic movie, and that was a fantastic sequence in the movie. The one thing I didn't like about it was that I thought they were going to use some characters more, and they were going to have more screen time. For example, Jamie Foxx, I didn't think he was going to have as little screen time as he did, but he was fine. He was good in the screen time he had, but I didn't know he was gonna have that little screen time. And another person, John Berthal, he was only in like literally like the first sequence, like the first quarter half of the movie, and then he was just gone. He was just gone from the rest of the movie, which I didn't hate it, but I was just like, in the commercials, it made it seem like he was more in the movie. It made it seem like he was in the movie more, but he wasn't in the movie just before only that quarter. But I don't know. Now, my number 6 movie of 2017 is Lady Bird. Directed by Greta Gerwig, this movie tells the story of a young girl who is about to enter college and wants to escape her hometown of Sacramento. The one big thing I loved about this movie was the performances by the actors in this movie, especially by Bernie Feldstein, who plays the best friend to Lady Bird. I forgot what her character name was, but I was honestly shocked and surprised by her performance because I never seen her act this way. The only other time I seen her act was in Neighbors 2, so that may have something to do with it, but I really did love her performance next to Saoirse Ronan's Lady Bird performance too. One thing I didn't like about this movie was that it was hard to relate to, being a young African American male from New Jersey and watching a movie about it's not about race or sex or whatnot, but about a 18-year-old girl who lives in Sacramento and who is predominantly white. It was, for me, it was hard to relate, and I know Greta Gerwig kind of wanted to make this movie relatable, and there were some things I kind of related with like going to college in a different state and in a whole different place, like, because I remember when I was in high school and I was applying to colleges, I kind of made it a note to apply to colleges out of New Jersey because I just didn't want to be in New Jersey, and I ended up at Bethune-Cookman University in Daytona Beach, Florida. But that was like kind of the only thing I related to. There was not too much else I related to in this movie. And we're halfway there with my number 5 movie of 2017, The Disaster Artist. This movie was written, directed, and starred James Franco as the titular role of Tommy Wiseau, that tells about the making of possibly one of the worst movies of all time, The Room. And it was such a great behind the scenes kind of look at the whole movie, because you could see how insane this Tommy Wiseau character is, because you never know where he's from. You don't know how old he is, and he says he's 21 when he looks like 45, and he says he's from New Orleans when he doesn't have that accent, when he doesn't have a New Orleans accent at all. He has a European accent, and when he's looking for funding to fund this movie, The Room, no one knows where he gets it from. And from the opening scene in the acting class, I was hooked immediately and James Franco did an amazing job as Tommy Wiseau. And who was his brother's name? I forgot, but his brother did Dave Franco. Yes, Dave Franco did an amazing job as Greg Shikaro, I think his name is. And I really loved how deep they dived into the making of this movie, which is actually a book about the making of The Room, and they just adapted that book to this movie, and it was just fantastic, I thought, in my mind. Although the one thing I will say about this movie, and I don't know if it's true because I never met the guy, my brother actually had the chance to meet Tommy Wiseau, but I never met him, was that it seemed like it made it seem like Tommy Wiseau was like a mean creep, almost. Like he was just a mean creep, and he had a lot of different things that weren't cool. Like there were a couple things that I weren't too cool with, but I didn't want to like pass it by, but I was just like, this is weird. I thought there were a lot of parts that were very weird. For example, he didn't have the air conditioning on. He didn't. Apparently, one of the stories in the book and that they showed in this movie was that he didn't turn the air conditioning on, and one of the actors who was very much older needed air conditioning, and she passed out. Now, I don't know if that actually happened on set, and I don't know if it happened like that on set. Like, if it did happen, I don't know if it happened like that. But it just made it seem like Tommy Wiseau was not the greatest of people, you know? Now, my number 4 movie of 2017 was War for the Planet of the Apes. Now, this was the end of the trilogy that Matt Reeves directed for the Planet of the Apes, but I absolutely loved it. I absolutely loved this ending. I really did love this ending movie because one, it ended and it kind of just tied into the original Planet of the Apes, which I also loved. It tied the spoilers in the spoiler for War of the Planet of the Apes, but after everything is done, and it kind of got biblical in a sense. After everything was done at wherever they were with Woody Harrelson's character, they the apes all go to this like not wasteland, like this like land to start new and to start everything over again and just to start a new a place. And Caesar, played by the phenomenal Andy Serkis. I don't know how Andy Serkis doesn't have an Oscar for one of his CGI roles, because he brought that ape to life, and he actually brought a tear to my eye. Not even joking a bit, but he brought a tear to my eye because it was just so beautiful, where he brings all the apes that he brings. He brings his son. He brings his no, he doesn't bring his wife. I don't remember if his wife was alive or not, but he brought all the apes he could, and he brought them to this just savannah and just this oasis to start a whole new thing. But Caesar couldn't go, and that was his last thing he did with the apes. And it was just such a beautiful moment and beautiful time. Now, for this movie and the next 3 movies, I don't really have anything that I hated or didn't like about the movies, because these were the movies that I loved so much that it was hard to list them 1 to 4, but thank God I was able to do it. Now on to my number 3 movie of 2017, which is Logan. Now this movie, another tearjerker, of course. From the trailer, you know it was going to be a cry fest, but I was so proud of this movie and everybody behind this movie, which was weird because I'll go into that later. But I was just so proud that this movie got a Oscar nomination for Best Adapted Screenplay of a comic book. So to me, that just says, yes, these comic book movies can get nominated for Oscars, and not just the visual effects things, and not just the makeup or the art, all the other art stuff. Like, you don't have to be nominated for that. You can actually be nominated for one of the bigger awards. And I think coming down the line, Logan is going to be one of those movies that other directors look up to have a comic book movie especially, be nominated for something like Best Adapted Screenplay. Maybe one day, not in the near future, but maybe just one day, a comic book movie will get a Best Picture nomination. How crazy would that be? But other than that part, I just loved how emotional and how right they got everything with this movie. From beginning to end, I was not in tears, but building up to full cry. Maybe I may have cried in the theater. I don't know. I really don't know. But I knew it was just so sad, and it was just so sad to see Hugh Jackman go from this role that he's been doing for so long, and hopefully with the Disney and Fox merger, that with this movie, they make an Avengers movie that Hugh Jackman will be a part of, because it was reported that Hugh Jackman said he will return to the Wolverine role if he was in an Avengers movie. But other than that, it was so beautiful and so amazing, and just such a great ending to such a great character played by such a great actor. Like, whoever they get to replace Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, I don't know if it will ever compare to Hugh Jackman being Wolverine. And I don't know if there is a single person that will play a superhero as long as Hugh Jackman has. Now for my number 2 movie of 2017, The Shape of Water. Directed by Guillermo del Toro, who is my favorite director ever, because he not does he only make great movies and make great stories for movies, but he just makes beautiful movies. If you thought Dunkirk was beautiful, and if you thought Blade Runner 2049 was beautiful, watch a Guillermo del Toro movie and tell me nothing is beautiful in that, because he makes so he just makes like romantic horror beautiful. He makes everything beautiful. And in this movie, it was more of the same and 100 times better. And I'm so glad that this is nominated for Best Picture. And I hope it wins. But if it doesn't win, my number one movie I hope that wins. It's 1 and 2 between those movies. But with The Shape of Water, and I hope that it's not just gonna be called the fish banking movie, because it's more than that. The story about this selective mute, this mute, you never really hear her talk, but this mute who goes and sees a man fish that is being tested and being just tortured by this big like science company, not science, this science company, who this mute woman just goes and saves because she falls in love with something that is different. And I can't express how much I love that message, and I loved how Guillermo del Toro did that. He didn't do it with just like, oh, this guy is from this town and this guy's from this or this girl's from this town. He did from, no, this guy is a fish, and this woman is a mute who no one really cares, and she's a custodian for this big experimental science company. And the performances, I hope the nominated actors for this movie get Oscars for the performances, like from Sally Hawkins to Richard Jenkins to Octavia Spencer. The performances in this movie were so beautiful, and I just thank Guillermo del Toro for this movie. But my number one movie, the movie that I thought was the best movie of 2017, Get Out. I absolutely loved this movie, directed by Jordan Peele and written by him too. It didn't star him, which he said he doesn't mind. Like, he didn't want to star in this movie, but he got the right people to do it. He really did. To pull out these amazing performances. And the one thing that I absolutely loved about this movie was that it was a movie that it wasn't an IP. It wasn't like a Marvel movie, or it wasn't a Star Wars or a Planet of the Apes movie, or it wasn't one of those movies, but it's talked about like it's one of those movies. It's talked about and theorized, and you can and I've got the DVD when the DVD came out, and I've probably, like, if the DVD was like one of those old recorders, I'm aging myself here, but if it was like an old tape player, I probably like messed up the tape by now because of how many times I've seen it. But I'm so glad that this movie got Best Picture. I got a Best Picture nomination, because I honestly thought it wouldn't get that. And the way he discussed race, and the way he discussed like the way Jordan Peele discussed race big time in this movie is scarily true. Like, for me, it didn't touch me. It hit me in a way that it didn't hit a lot of people, I feel. Like, I'm not saying I don't like white people, but I'm saying there have been plenty of times where I was the only black person at a white function, and I felt that some of the white people were like the people, like the family in Get Out. Like, they were trying to what's the word? They were trying to like be very cultural, and and when I saw that, it was just like, and when I saw Get Out, it kind of brought me back to those days and to those times when that happened. And oh my goodness, like I can really go on. I can do a whole breakdown not of this movie, and it was really truly my favorite movie of 2017. Only for the simple fact that it was talked about like a Marvel movie. It was talked about like a Star Wars movie. It wasn't like a flash in the pan. Like, after it was done, its run in theaters, people were still talking about it, and people were still theorizing about it. That to me was just beautiful. By a first time director too, and I've been following Jordan Peele's career for a very long time, since his days on Key and Peele. No, since his days on Mad TV, I've been following this man's career. But and when I saw on Twitter that he was going to make this movie, and I saw the trailer, I was just like, this is something new. This is different. This isn't one of those type of horror movies that like gets you, that like just gets you with jump scares. And this is one of those type of movies that makes you think, that it makes you like theorize, like how it's been theorized. But yeah, Get Out is my favorite movie of 2017. But that about wraps it up for this video. But I would love to know your opinions, and I would love to know what are your favorite movies of 2017 in the comment section down below. If you want to watch my last video, then click right here. If you want to subscribe to my channel, then click right here. Like, comment, and share, and I will see you next time.